Okay. I'm going to give you a choice. DARPA or Distributive Cognition? Which one do you want?
Or we could do them together. Jay, do you want to take on one of those?
Sure. I think I wrote the Distributed Cognition one. That's the idea that much of our mental activity is actually not simply limited to our brains. That we use computers and other people to understand things.
Yeah.
And boy, see, now I wrote this like a year and a half ago, so I'm trying to remember.
But this kind of ties into Kurzweil's idea that we're going to outsource we already have outsourced our knowledge to the cloud, haven't we?
Exactly. Yes.
Devices. So what we're saying is that within a social system, generally, your cognition isn't actually you. You go and ask advice. You go and get perspective. Is it that?
Right. Yeah. That's part of it. It was a particular fellow whose name I don't remember who was talking about who was studying how Navy ships operated, and the sort of theoretical model that he came up with was distributed cognition, the idea that you don't simply look at one person's brain to see how they're understanding something. They are bringing in knowledge from outside of themselves.
Yeah.
And you look at that whole process, the whole interlinked system, to understand how cognition works.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, go on. You?
Yeah, I mean, there's basically the idea that human beings have always had distributed cognition, at least since the beginning of writing and publishing, and anything that sort of binds the discoveries, the contents of some human minds to the contents of other human minds. And it appears to occur in other kinds of species naturally, ants and so forth.
Right, leaving a trail for the other ants to follow, that kind of thing.
And probably social media starts to move.
Yes. There's a lot of distributed cognition going on there.
In fact, I mean, I think it's been shown that human beings in isolation don't have much cognition at all. They have hallucinations, but that's a different sort of thing.
Okay, do you want to do DARPA? DARPA?
Oh, I'd love to do DARPA. I don't know if they'd let me do them, but incredible. I mean, in the United States Army, sort of wildly experimental arm. I can't remember anything off the top, and anything far out and extreme in technology that you can think of, creating non-biological life, working with cryonics, doing some of the first really realistic work with cryonics, taking injured and bordering on dead people and freezing them to do work, putting them into a cryonic state to do work on them, and then bringing them back. That's one of their projects. I mean, they basically have a Singularity project going, to bring about intelligent machines.
Right.
If you look up the stuff that DARPA does, it's as out there as it can possibly be. And the government has always considered them sort of an experimental arm where they can play with things that may not have an immediate payoff, like that foolish internet thing that they were working on in the 70s.
Right, and of course it was DARPA research that underlies a lot of the internet, because the reason that the internet was developed originally was, how can we communicate between military bases and military units in the aftermath of a nuclear war. So you need some sort of system for the computers to communicate that if one node goes down, if one city goes down, the rest can still communicate. And so that research was at the core of what became the internet.
Cool. Okay, let's come on to the E's. Let's go for exoskeletons.
One of the most popular articles on H+ was about an exoskeleton, a machine that could make a human being, I can't remember the exact figure, 30 or 40 times stronger.
Yeah.
Basically, you strap it on, and you can use it to lift things and move mountains and so forth. Japanese company, I believe, created it. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of the idea that that's basically the idea that we can have these exterior forms of embodiment that can do things that we can't do at the level of the full body. Because
Yes.
otherwise it's just cyborg technology. If it's just it's one specific thing.
Yeah,
And this
but
is why. Yeah, go on, Jay.
oh, I was going to say that's another interesting example of a technology that, I mean, I first saw this, I believe, in Popular Science in the late 1960s, because somebody, maybe GE, had developed one, and the idea was that it was you could have the guy in the warehouse lifting 500-pound boxes off of the upper story of the shelf there, and that would be I didn't write that section, or I would have researched this, because I was wondering why that was a false start, and you heard nothing about it except in science fiction, Iron Man costumes kind of thing. But recently they seem to have made more strides that way, probably because robotics has gotten better, and probably there's some computer control that's necessary. I think in the 60s original one was a hydraulic system that probably didn't work very well, or didn't work well enough to do what they wanted.
Cool. Okay, next, let's go fun theory.
Oh boy. Yeah, Eliezer Yudkowsky, who is fairly well known in singularitarian circles and started a number of organizations, came up with a theory basically regarding how much fun is there in the universe, and can this be mathematically proven or mathematically analyzed. And the article is sort of fun. It's not that much fun, but it's as I say in the book, I think Sheldon Cooper would be beside himself without having been cloned. Yeah, I mean, we have a number of things in the book that are more or less silly and playful, and there to give people some relief from some of the harder science and tech news. And fun theory is just that, pretty much.
Perfect.